Welcome. Today we're talking with Ernest Strube. He has been the president and CEO of the Goose River Bank since June 2011. Goose River Bank has proudly and consistently supported the local agricultural industry since 1881. Ernie, welcome and thank you for joining today's Banker Digest.
Thank you, Larry. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. All right. Well, let's get started, Ernie. As president and CEO of the Goose River Bank, how has the managing of the bank changed over time?
Well, I think like every business, we've had to adapt to a lot of changes, technological changes and things like that. When you think about the old historical banks and how they operated, I mean, everybody always used to joke about the banks being, a business that was open from 93 and you took a 2-hour lunch and you went golfing and things like that. Well, that's obviously not the case anymore. I think when you look back at my predecessors and historically, usually when your path to leadership in a bank kind of travel along the lines of go in there, find out a little bit about credit, become a business banker, hopefully someday become the head of the lending department, and then when the previous president retires, naturally it was always the senior vice president of lending that typically took on the management position of the bank, and that's not the case anymore. I think that having an understanding of credit and having an understanding of some of the credit risks and things like that are still an important piece of knowing and understanding banking. But really, in order to manage a bank in today's environment, there's a lot of other things that need to happen. And probably the most important piece of that is leading people. That it's no longer just a transactional based business where people come in, they have a need, they want to borrow money, or they have excess money and they want to put it on deposit.
Right.
It's changed to the point where now we really work with our clients, and even within the environment of our employees, that you have to manage them and lead them and teach them a different skill set than maybe what was required in the past.
Great. Thank you, Ernie. So, following your comments about the changes in the business and how it's delivered, et cetera, how has the shift to online services, mobile banking, and all those things really changed what you were kind of describing as banking acumen?
Well, when I started my career, and I got a lot of gray hair, so that was a little while ago. On a daily basis, somebody would run our computer system all night long, and they would come in, and when you got to your office in the morning, there would be a 3-inch stack of green bar paper that had all the information that you probably needed for that day. When somebody would call in and they would ask for their balance on their account, you would scroll through those papers and you would get their account number, you'd find their balance, and you'd tell them what their balance was. That just wouldn't fly today. It was the demands are a lot more instantaneous. People expect that things get posted to their account when they happen. And it's a whole different way of dealing with customers. It's really changed from a transactional type of business to more of a relationship type of business. And the way technology changes, you have to be willing to and able to adjust to the customer needs and to different technological changes as they come about. And probably one of the other things that's really changed is we're in a world environment now, and people have access to information almost immediately, and that's good in some situations, and it's a challenge in other situations. I think banks historically had looked at credit as being their riskiest area of their organization. And although credit risk is still alive and present, and it's one of our bigger concerns, reputation risk now is up there as well as transactional risk and information security risks and those type of risks that really, from a detriment standpoint, can bring your business to its knees probably faster than maybe the old traditional credit risk can.
Good point. Really, the broadening of the risks and the types of exposures to the bank beyond the traditional credit risk is interesting, particularly your point about the timing of it, it could be much more quickly realized. So, with all that, the broadening of this banking acumen, the way you've described it is. So, what's your approach? As the president and CEO, what's your approach to building and cultivating leadership skills for bankers?
Well, as with any business, a portion of it is obviously you have to be part of the business and understand the business. But we've really found that education becomes a very different need than maybe what it was in the past. I know that when I was in banking in the 90s, it seemed like the natural path was to go to like a graduate school of banking or something like that. And I know that I went to the graduate school of banking back in the late 90s. And my plan of going there was I thought, oh, it's going to make me a better lender. And what I realized in going through a program, is that not only did it make me a better lender, that was part of it, but the more important piece of that whole process is I learned leadership skills. And our bank, we utilize the Graduate School of Banking in Madison. It's our we're a strong advocate of that program. We believe in it. I've watched that program change, and I've watched that program become more and more leadership focused over the years. And I would say that as we look at the future leaders of our bank, one of the requirements that we have is at some point in their career, typically probably in that time when they've maybe got 10 years of experience and they're kind of moving into that management role, that we send them to the Graduate School of Banking. And it teaches them how a bank functions. It opens the hood, and it's if they were just a lender, I shouldn't say just a lender, but if they came up on the lending side, it teaches them the asset liability side. It teaches them from a deposit and from a lending attribute how a bank functions. If they came up on the operational side or on the deposit side, they also get the credit piece of it. And overall, the benefit of the program is, and the reason that we only send our employees to the Graduate School of Banking in Madison is it also culturally builds the same culture with our employees, and we speak the same language. And I'm just a real believer in the leadership piece that they offer there. They partner with the University of Wisconsin. Not only do you get your degree in banking from the University of Wisconsin Graduate School of Banking, but you also get a leadership certificate from the University of Wisconsin, which it's a rigorous process that you have to go through, and I think it's second to none.
Great. It's thank you, Ernie. Your comments about the leadership side of it is fabulous, because having all the customers and having the assets in the bank to lend, et cetera, and the acumen, somebody has to, some team has to pull it all together, and that's where leadership becomes important, particularly in today's environment where things are much more competitive, much more global, as you said. So thank you for spending time with us today at today's Banker Digest. And in closing, thank you all for joining us today. If you have additional questions for Ernie, please see the links in his bio.